Well, in the greatest city in the world, the city that never ever sleeps. What's going on, everybody? Mike Gunz here. Of course, you can always follow me on Twitter at the Gunz Show, Gunz. And if you are like me, you're listening right now. Of course, we are in the midst of a lot of playoffs happening right now. Not only do we, of course, have basketball going on with our Knicks, we'll see what happens there, but the NHL playoffs have been ramping up, and they have been wild. So exciting. There is nothing like NHL playoff hockey. So we figured, why not speak with one of the greatest of all time, Hall of Famer and more, number 35, up in the rafters for the New York Rangers, Mike Richter. What's up, Mike? How are you doing?
Michael, great to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
How was that? Was that good? Did you get excited? Did I pump you up for that?
Oh my God, I'm awake now. Yeah, I'm ready to play.
Well, listen, that's exactly how exciting I've been feeling the last couple, games, last couple weeks leading up to the playoffs and more. But Mike, let's be honest, there is nothing like playoff hockey, my friend.
No, I mean, it's amazing. You know, it's an odd thing because, right, it's no longer snowing. It's getting warm. You're thinking picnic. You know, we're coming out of COVID. Everybody's outside. But this is the time for playoffs, and it's so bloody exciting, right? I mean, it's almost like baseball. You play it all summer, but then the fall, when it starts getting cold, is when it really gets cool, right? I mean, it's really able to watch. But the hockey's amazing because for years people were saying, well, you know, everybody gets into the playoffs, so the season's not that big of a deal. Well, the season's a big deal. There's now 32 teams with Seattle coming in. Right. And it ain't easy to get in that top 16. And once you're in there, everybody seems to be a rivalry, right? You pick that first round is just amazing. You don't know what's going to happen, what goalie's going to get hot. And I think with all sports right now, the parity, everybody's so tight that, you know, you just on any given night, anybody can win. So it's worth tuning in. But I love the playoffs. There's been a lot of OT. It's been fun.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And we've been seeing so many overtime goal games that all of a sudden it's like, well, guess I'm not going to bed early tonight because there's so many games, which is, you know, edge of your seat excitement.
It's putting a little damp in my productivity during the day, I must say. But no, I mean, this is the best. And I miss the time. So you get through that, you know, first round, now there's only 8 teams left. And you're like, wait, I'm supposed to have multiple games every day. How can I live without it? But no, it's all really entertaining. And, you know, even with this COVID kind of compromised season, the players are playing at a very, very high level, and it's an entertainment product. So yeah, I love watching it.
I've got 2 questions for the playoffs, and then we have a lot to talk about with Mike because he's part of athletedirect.com, which is a great thing Brandon Steiner has put up where it's game, used memorabilia, and more. It's been awesome. It's been a massive hit, and we'll talk about that in just a couple minutes, so stay tuned for that. Great gifts for the whole family and also yourself if you're a personal collector or just kind of want to get that unique memorabilia to show up to your friends and also just relive those great occasions and moments. But 2 questions real quick on the playoffs. One is, it feels like, and I know this happened to you in your career a bit, about splitting time as a goaltender. And now we're seeing it. It seems like it's more prevalent these days. Do you think it's got to do with, like in baseball, we hear all about analytics. Is it analytics? Is it not riding, you know, the hot hand? What is it about? What do you think?
Well, I think it's maybe number one, that parity that I was talking about among teams. It's also among players, right? So if you go down the 32 teams in the NHL, how many have a bad starting goalie? None. How many have a bad second string goalie? None. Third string goalie? Probably none. I mean, you look how deep it is. The Rangers move on from Henrik Lundqvist. I mean, tremendous talent. And you think, well, there's a big hole to fill. You have 2 guys coming into place that are just, I mean, they haven't missed a beat. They're fantastic players. So when you have that kind of depth, I mean, in my lifetime, you know, there was a big drop-off there. You know, Patrick Roy might be the starting goalie for the Montreal Canadiens way back when, but, you know, you wouldn't start anybody else. You wouldn't think about it. And now every team has a couple goalies that can go in there and play. You saw Spencer Knight just come in and win his first game the other night. I mean, really impressive stuff in terms of how good the goalies are. So I think maybe analytics come into play, but I think it's just who's healthy, who's at the top of the game. If this guy didn't win, and he may have even played well, maybe we're going to just chuck the kitchen sink at him and throw in somebody else there. You have that kind of level of talent in that position right now.
And, of course, it makes the coach's decision that much tougher because if you put in the wrong one, like you look at the Islanders, you know, they've just been flip-flopping back and forth. You put in the wrong one and they lose that night, you're going to hear from the fan base. You're going to hear from everybody.
For sure. But it's nice to have that option, of having two guys that are that strong, and I think most teams have that now.
And I guess the final question I want to ask you is, who do you think's got that rising momentum right now in the playoffs? I mean, it can go round to round or whatnot, but who are you surprised by, or who do you think is delivering just the way that we should expect them to?
I guess in both I'd answer by Boston. It's not like they're surprising people, but I'm almost surprised that they're that good because they're always there. Tuukka Rask is a great goalie, and they have, that great perfection line and whatnot, but and they keep coming through, and they find ways of doing it all the time, and they are impressive. I mean, they've got game breakers, it seems, left and right. Someone's always coming up there and making it happen. So I don't know. It's hard to predict the East, but just some of the teams that are really exciting. Minnesota is really cool to watch right now. The Avalanche, with McKinnon, this guy's just on fire. So everybody's, different kind of complexion to it. I like the East just because those teams so well, right. Kind of right place with all of them, but really compelling reasons to see, Ovi, you hate to see that team go. I mean, he's a special player. I mean, he's a once-in-a-generation player coming in with another once-in-a-generation player, with Sid Crosby. And so it's hard not to root for those guys because you don't know how many years they have left, but look good the Darn Islanders are too. I mean, Tampa Bay, a power play. So, there's something to love on every team. And right now, the entertainment factor is pretty high.
And do you ever wish that Vegas had a team when you were playing? Because Vegas is just wild. I mean, I gotta or even Nashville, right? Nashville would have been crazy to play in. Nashville's
amazing, and that's a fun place. Vegas, I went out and watched a Ranger game there a few years ago. I was not expecting what I saw. It was awesome. I mean, you pile out right into the middle of the town. It's 75, 80 degrees out at 10 o'clock at night. They really have hit a home run there, and I hope the same thing for Ron Francis's Kraken out in Seattle. I mean, that's a great hockey town. That'll be a great addition too. So that's something the Pacific Northwest, I think, is a great history there. That'll be a nice addition.
It's always cold and rainy, so you might as well just play. You might as well play hockey anyway. Yeah, might as well make money off of it. Exactly. So we're speaking here with the great Mike Richter. It is Mike Gunz here. Appreciate you all tuning in with us. I want to get to this because I am a memorabilia collector, and so much so that my dad, maybe once or twice a year, he'd get, I have a Nolan Ryan autographed baseball, or I was a diehard Jim Abbott after he threw the no-hitter. I was 7, 8 years old. I was like, that's my hero. That's a great person. What an inspirational story from the Yankees to be able to do that. Getting an autographed ball when you're 8 years old by him was unbelievable. Mattingly, Dottie Baseball, all of that. But now we're seeing it kind of just transcend from just something that maybe parents would get their kids here and there to now it's a real big thing. And athletedirect.com is something you've been a part of. You, a lot of the other guys, Doc and Messier and more, where you're giving fans the opportunity to really own special moments for yourself that they'll be able to kind of share in as well.
Yeah, it's a really different concept. Brandon was at the forefront of the memorabilia kind of craze over the last 20 years, and it's always been there. I mean, I collected baseball cards and hockey stamps in Philadelphia as a kid, but it always feels slightly odd as a player to have people ask you even for your autograph. But look, we're all fans too, and having those kind of iconic moments. I grew up with the Philadelphia Flyers being great players, Mike Schmidt and the Phillies and all of this. So yeah, those things matter. They're part of your life, and to be able to share in a more direct way. I mean, as the name suggests, Athletes Direct. But it's pretty cool because there's a platform that you can do everything from memorabilia to I've got a syrup company literally making maple syrup, and I can sell it on this platform. So you can go directly to the fans and they can learn a lot about you. Now you see Mark Messier is involved in a vodka company and whatnot. It's just a different platform to kind of give a different feel for your players with the ability to get, all the memorabilia you've ever been able to do. So, I think that the world's changing. With COVID lockdown, that's one of the things that really kind of shot up. People were like, yeah, I've got this collection. I'm home now anyway. Why don't I tend to this thing? So I think it gave a bit of a breath of fresh air. But Brandon's been working on this concept for a while. And I was kind of like, well, what is it? But what is it? He's like, you'll see. It's a platform. It's a way of you kind of going directly to the fans and having them sharing these things. So, everything from a new product like a syrup to, cleats that you had an interception and ran in for a touchdown in the championship game. It's pretty cool stuff. So yeah, happy to be involved in it. I always say yes to Brandon.
Yeah, well, for everybody, especially on the East Coast, we all know Brandon Steiner. He's been part of your, the biggest teams throughout the years for sure. And, he's been able to continue to build. And now it's become not only a national, but an international brand, whether it's collectible exchange that he's working on, whether he's doing auctions and whatnot on there, to also obviously Athletes Direct. Do you yourself have what is one of your prized possessions that you own from that's kind of cool, kind of a neat thing that you own?
Well, I think hockey is great because it's got so much equipment. And so there's these kind of real personality pieces, like masks are amazing, right? So if you go, I've got a couple masks that, I won the cup in one, and just different ones that might be slightly altered over the years. But it's sort of, you take it almost for granted when you're playing. And I remember talking to Marty Brodeur, and one year he had numbered every one of his sticks. This is the first one I played in the first game, and thought he was going to win the Stanley Cup, and he did. But you have this. I won this game up in Boston. This one was in the finals. It's pretty cool because most players don't take the time to do that. The only time I really saw that was Wayne Gretzky in his last game. Understood what it was, and he always had that great sense of his place in the game. And so he used, 30 sticks that last game purposely, a couple of warm-ups, and each guy, when he retired, got an autographed Wayne Gretzky stick, the last one of his career. And to this day, I still have it in my office, and it's an amazing thing. When I was, one day I came out and I had 3 little boys and they were playing street hockey with. I'm like, not that one. Not that one.
For the love of Mike,
you might like the curve there, Tom. But
please, no.
Yeah. But those things, they're pretty special. So pieces of equipment that you wore, and it's special because most athletes don't want to part with these things. And so some that you just keep and others you share it. I've got lots of sticks I use and all that kind of stuff, equipment that, when you're playing, all you're thinking about is the next game. Okay, these pads are done. I'll go into these ones. But then it gets over. If you go to the Rangers locker room right now, Acacio Marks, the equipment manager in the Rangers, is just an amazing guy, but he's got all these masks from Hank, from myself, from everybody who's ever played there. And it's a really, there's a lot of personality there. It's really cool. And one, it's all history. It's great.
And and what's great is because you can tell from the passion, you just kind of almost in your mind, like reliving those moments. The Gretzky story is unbelievable. Playing the hockey in the street. Oh my God. That is, that'll get the blood pressure up right there,
Yeah, no kidding.
But fans are able to see that because fans live through that. I mean, fans that went and saw, or can now pass it down to generations and whatnot, seeing let's be honest, the Rangers haven't done a lot since 94,
Right.
So that is literally something that is historic right there,
It's amazing. There was an outdoor game at Lambeau Field, and the trainer of the Rangers got me an autographed football from Brett Favre. I'm like, awesome. I mean,
nice. Yeah.
I never moved the thing. I mean, it's a piece of kind of equipment that I have in my gym right now, and it's really a cool thing. So I think you forget, all players were fans too, right? There was a great story, a guy I played with in college, Cleon Daskalauskas from, I think, BU, great goalie. And he got scored on, I think, might have been in preseason. Wayne Gretzky got a hat trick on him. He took the puck after the game and got Wayne to autograph it. He scored on me 3 times, so you might as well get the thing. But I mean, those things remain forever. It's stuff you'd want to pass on to your kids. So it's really a cool move.
Well, listen, we appreciate it. It's Mike Richter, everybody, and we definitely check it out. It's athletesdirect.com and, of course, collectibleexchange.com. Brandon Steiner continues to do it all. And like you said, there's unique things such as the maple syrup or anything kind of just for people to learn more about you, or those that want to support you, or those that, a lot of times – I say this to my friends and stuff, I'm a big music fan, and music is always there to kind of get you through the sad, the good times. There's always a song out there. Yeah. But sports is right there as well. Some of my favorite moments when I was down were being able to watch the Yankees or just a team. It really mattered a lot to me, just as a song does.
I think you noticed in the lockdown that we had, that was the thing. You say, all right, look, I'm kind of locked in my house now. Work's a little bit compromised, but boy, I'd love to go watch the Tour de France or Wimbledon or anything else that was still going on. And to see it coming back in full right now is so much fun. It's a huge part of our culture.
I got quick rapid fire questions for you real quick. the Garden was so loud the other night for the Knicks, but when you're playing, obviously they adjusted the glass and whatnot, the height of it, and they made it thicker, and they're trying to keep the sound out, but you can still hear, right, the rumbling and stuff. So these fans for the teams and players, they are hearing that excitement, that there is home ice advantage these days.
There's no question about it. And you actually saw that. I was thinking that the other day in the playoffs, because there's less fans in the building, I think the home team lost quite a few times. And so, you lost your advantage, right? You don't have 20,000 maniacs fired up with you. And it makes a difference. So you see Nashville had, I think, 15,000 fans there. Totally different experience.
Yeah.
Like you turn on the television, there's something more exciting about that. I mean, when you're sharing these experiences, that's, we went on that playoff run and so many of the people were at multiple games. It was like, you knew everybody, but they knew the cheers. And that's the type of thing where it's a shared experience, which is unbelievable. So yeah, getting live fans back in the game, believe me, it makes a big difference for the player. It adds an edge to it. And yeah, you have a barrier there, but it's every rink that is meaningfully advantage, home ice advantage, feels like they're on top of you.
Leach similarities to Fox. Fox is solid. You know what I mean? He's do you see anything in it? Like, yeah.
Oh my God, he's awesome. He really is. Look, this Ranger team is a really good team. This is a really talented team, and they know what they're doing. So they just need experience. You don't win a championship overnight. Even Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier and all the great players from every sport needed to apprentice themselves into figuring this thing out, and they're doing that. So they're getting there.
Were you surprised by the coaching decision, or?
Yeah, I mean, sports is like that, and I remember Glenn Zather once saying, I'm hiring you, and I'll be the guy firing you. I mean, it's a shame. I was surprised. I felt he did a great job, but it's sports, and from a player being traded to a coach being fired to a GM being relieved, these things do happen, and it's a shame because it is a job, but these are friends and family and everything else. So they got the Rangers to where they are now. I think the Rangers are ready to take real steps. So. Mr. Dolan wants to keep moving it forward, and he's going to do what he's going to do. But this is kind of universal. It's a hard business to be part of, and I can remember the first time a friend gets traded on a team. But what? Like, he's a friend. How can that happen? It is a business, and man, it can be very, very abrupt and cruel.
It's kind of wild being a New Yorker that all of a sudden the Knicks are doing all this and you just see the Rangers and you're like, come on. But people are like, well, Dolan, what are you doing? But maybe now he's paying more attention because, they are making these moves. The bottom line is the Rangers deserve to be there. Like, come on. The Guardian needs the Rangers.
The Guardian needs the Rangers. New York needs the Rangers. But this is the best rebuilding moment that I've seen in 2 decades here. It's very hard to do in any, I think, market, any environment. Who wants to sit around when a bunch of kids are basically trying out to see if they can make the bigs? But these guys, they drafted well. We were lucky on a couple of occasions. But, there's been some real talent that's coming out of the locker room, and they're seasoning well. That's a great, great team. So they're going to do big things. I really believe it.
And, of course, the next thing real quick, but Boudreau, Tortorella, our buddy Mark. Like, there's a lot of – who do you think,
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, you still have to have somebody. I think Quinn and his staff were really good about teaching, and you have to do that. I mean, these are still young guys, and they have to develop. It's not a group of 30-year-old veterans that know how to play and that aren't listening to anybody, and they're going to go out and do their thing. They're still developing and figuring out what it means to be a professional, and that kind of guidance really is crucial. And I think as the team gets more poised and seasoned, they'll bring older players in, and that really makes a difference. You see, Toronto's doing the same thing. You have a Joe Thornton in the locker room. These are mentors. You can't have enough of those things. Look, man, Adam Graves, Brian Leach, Zubov, myself, we learned so much from the Kevin Lowe's and the McTavishes and the Mark Messiers that came in the locker room. You have to do it as a team. The coaching staff can only do so much. You have to start to figure it out as a player, and having older guys that have been through it, massively important. That'll happen too.
And the fan base, I feel like, really would love a Messier to be back. They're kind of rooted for him, But
he's an important teacher. I've coached him on my kids and whatnot, and the guy can't help himself. He's really good like that and very, very supportive. So I think there's always a role for a guy like that.
Absolutely. A final question I wanted to ask you. My dad, I grew up obviously watching hockey, but my dad was a big hockey fan. So, I would watch NHL, et cetera. And he showed me the World Cup games, though. And the World Cup that you participated in, it was unbelievable. You know what I mean? That run that you guys had was unbelievable. And then, of course, it's the Olympics just a couple of years later. So my question is, would you trade the World Cup for the gold, or for a Stanley Cup? What, any of those would you intertwine at all? But the World Cup games, that 2 out of 3 was wild. Well,
you talk about a team learning how to win. I mean, I played with Brian and Leachy and a bunch of those U.S. players that end up being on that national team that won the 96 gold. In 88, we were amateurs, and we were a great team, but we were just young, and we all developed over our careers and continue to play for U.S. hockey at various international competitions. And that one was awesome because hockey is a real international game. I mean, think of the players coming out of Sweden, Finland, Russia, everywhere. I mean, there's just so many good players, not just, Canada and the United States. So it's pretty meaningful when you get up. You're playing Belarus. That's a great game. You have to be ready for it, or they will win. And everybody's got their national prize. So you think Swedes want to lose to the Finns? Not really. They'll bring their A game. So it really does matter. Look, we grew up in North America, and the pinnacle there is the Stanley Cup. So it's hard to argue that the cup is what you're paid to do, and it's what your focus is on. But because the Olympics, they gave that format where pros could play, and it was truly the best of the best. It was awesome. The World Cup and the Olympics are still, they're really meaningful. That's not just, there's a dream team and one team's going to pound away on the others. There's 6 teams that go in there thinking that they can win the gold medal, and they are right. All of them are capable of doing it, maybe 8. And you'll never know what you're going to get. You watch this World Championship that they're doing right now. Now it's various levels. There's some amateurs and pros in it, but my gosh, people can be taken out. Canada can lose games to, Italy or something like that on the wrong night, a single game. So I think the competition is so good as an international game that these are really compelling deals. But I wouldn't say they're neck and neck. We grew up competing for the Stanley Cup, and it's the best league in the world. So it kind of says I am the best on that team that wins it. But a gold medal is a gold medal, man. For the Olympics, that's pretty cool stuff. So I always tune in for that. The hockey's awesome.
Yeah, and it's great that, like you said, it's all around that. Like I said, that 96 there was just wild. It was so cool to see, even outside of just your NHL thing, because sometimes you might get bitter because you're like, oh, my team's out. I don't want to. I'm an Islander fan. I don't want to see the Rangers win at all. You know. But for something like that, it was just great hockey. Everybody just competing on the same team for it. So,
and it is really odd because, we literally were taken as playing against Adam Graves, and, a week later he's back on your team, and vice versa. You're playing with, your winger might be a guy that you had a fight with last year because he was on the other team. But you quickly get that kind of camaraderie in the locker room, and it really, hockey's a funny sport like that. It's incredibly passionate, and so, as awkward as that might be in those first couple of days, boom, the ice gets broken, so to speak, and then this is your family, and you're going to war with them, and that's
sports. That's sports, baby. That's sports. That's why we love it. His name's Mike Richter. Great stuff. Thank you so much for coming by. Of course, it's athletesdirect.com. Great game war memorabilia and more. Definitely check out it. It's very cool, and it's got so many great superstars and athletes throughout the years as a part of it, and there's even more coming. I spoke to Brian not too long ago, and he's got all these ideas, as Brandon Steiner does. He just keeps rolling with them.
Yeah, stay tuned. It'll keep growing, no question.
Any Twitter or anything that you want to promote, website, any way we can help you out? For the viewers
check
out
this thing out. My hat trick maple syrup's there with Brandon, and it's cool because the proceeds go to charity, and so there's this could be a powerful platform for a lot of good things. So You'll love it to see it, and it'll keep evolving.
There it is, Mike Richter, number 35 himself. Appreciate you coming on with Mike Gunz here, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mike. Take it easy.